This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 1117 of Horse Tip Daily, your almost everyday morsel of helpful hints, useful facts, and practical techniques for horse folks. Brought to you today by Ecovet. Greetings, horse people. Coach Jen here, and thanks for tuning in to Horse Tip Daily. Today's tip is with Dr. Tim from Ecovet, and he talks about an entirely new type of insect repellent that has been derived from natural fatty acids, with a little help from Glenn the Geek and Dr. Wendy Ying.
Well, Wendy, you have been doing a product review for us that Dr. Tim, who's on here with us, had sent you a product to test out, and it's called Ecovet, and it's a fly repellent. Tell us, and let me tell you, Wendy lives in Sarasota. That's southern Florida. We have bugs you can't imagine in Florida. So how did it work?
Well, for me, I think it works great. I was actually really surprised at how quickly it worked on the gnats, because down here in Sarasota, we have a real problem with gnats and mosquitoes because, it doesn't get cold enough to kill them off. So all times of the year we have mosquitoes, and my horses, I have two that really suffer with sweet itch. And so they have to live like vampires because they can't be out at dawn and dusk. And then they start that horrible itch scratch cycle. And, even if I get the gnats off of them, if they start the itching and the inflammation in their skin, they just can't stop scratching. And so I started using this, especially on my little baby horse's ears, because he just rubbed his ears raw last year. And there was nothing I could do to stop him from scratching. And this has worked so great. And I did a little experiment because I was grooming one by the fence, and the other ones, of course, all stand there staring at me. And we have some cows in the neighborhood, so I have some of those cattle flies that, surround their eyes. So I sprayed it on their face. On one of them's face, I put the Ecovet on, and just like I wiped it on my hands and then rubbed it on his face. And then I put my regular pyrethrin-based fly spray on the other one. And of course, within 5 minutes, the flies were back on the other one. And this Ecovet lasted I was grooming for 30 minutes. So my experiment wasn't so good because I didn't stay around a time till how long it lasted. But I noticed a big difference, whereas it wasn't just oh yeah, this stuff works.
Well, Dr. Tim, what makes this Ecovet different than other fly sprays out there?
Well, I think Dr. Wendy really hit it on the nail on the head, because it's not a pyrethrin or pyrethroid. It's not an essential oil. It's a totally new set of ingredients, and they're food-grade fatty acids. And some basic research was done about 20 years ago by a scientist that was looking at why mosquitoes attack and what they do, and he was actually trying to develop an alternative for DEET for the Army. And what he found was that certain compounds really repel. And in these groups of compounds, he found these fatty acids that really repel well. And interestingly, they repel at higher concentrations, but they're actually insecticidal at lower concentrations too. So it's an interesting compound that actually repels and kills the flies and the chelacoides. And we know the chelacoides are a big issue. And so it was really neat to hear that it works so well for Wendy.
Well, how often do you have to put it on? I love these fly sprays, by the way, that say good for 10 days, which is a crock of crap. I have never seen a fly spray I haven't had to put on every day. I don't care if they say 10 days or not. That's just crap. So, so how often do you put Ecovet on?
I think every 1 to 2 days. If there are horses that are particularly prone to having problems with sweet itch, I really recommend twice a day. And, that's because they just can't afford to have any landing at all. It just really sets off that inflammatory reaction that Wendy was talking about. And once it gets going, boy, that's a challenge, in doing that because they're so allergic.
And once it starts, it's almost impossible to stop. So you need to stop it. It's just like the flea control with the dogs, when dogs with hot spots. If they get bitten by one flea, that's it. They're going to be scratching all the rest of the month. And just like with the horses, if they get bitten by the gnats, they're going to start the sweet itch cycle, and it's going to be impossible to cure that year.
Right. And we've had some pretty exciting results clinically from our hospital and some neat success stories of horses that have never had a year without it. And, that they're bundled up, they're wearing the sheets, they're trying everything. They're the vampire horses, fly sprays, they try SWAT, they try fins, they try everything. And this is the first time some of them have actually had a mane or a tail, and that's pretty exciting that they're able to do that.
I kind of look at it like the stealth. It kind of makes your horse like a stealth fighter, because really what it does, I mean, that's right, because it really makes your horse kind of invisible to the insect.
In a way, and that's kind of the mechanism, is that we never know exactly how things work when they're doing it, but it does seem to confuse the bug's ability to navigate. And so you can actually watch them fly into the zone, because it's kind of a repellent, it's a spatial repellent, and you watch them fly into the zone that as it's evaporating off of the horse, and you see them, they kind of fly in and get confused, and they can't figure out where the horse is, and they fly away and eventually die. So it's kind of an interesting mechanism in how it works that way.
Interesting. So now, how's it come? How do you buy it?
Well, there's a couple of different things. We're a new company this year. We're just expanded nationally. We were just regional in the Pacific Northwest last year, so we're making our inroads. Dover does sell it for us, and we're pretty excited about that. We're making contacts throughout the industry. There is our website too, and so right now the website may be the most reliable way of doing it, but like we said, Dover is a big account that does ship nationally too, and able to get the things out. We're really hoping to get it locally to a lot of people as soon as we can too, through our distribution network.
And that's eco-vet.com. Is that the website?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Now, the one thing we should warn people about is the smell, because they're gonna encounter that right away. So we'll warn them about that. Now, the odor that it has, it's not your typical fly spray. So explain that.
Part of it is where it comes from, and they're food grade fatty acids, but they're actually derived from palm kernel oil, and so you have a real coconutty type of smell. And actually, one of the Latin name for one of the fatty acids is caprilic, and that caprine is goat, and it does kind of smell strong. So there is a strong, very different smell. Now, we do have a fragrance that goes along with that to try to help alleviate that a little bit, but it's just a very different, strong scent in doing that. So it
Glenn,
is
that's why I love it and you don't love it.
Why?
Because it's goaty. I love that goat smell. I have goats.
Yeah, she has goats, so that maybe explains it.
And I love the smell of it. I think it smells great.
It's one of the things I've noticed, that either you love it or hate it. There's not going to be an in-between. So, but one thing I think...
Well, if it works, that's the most important part, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, that is the most
I like that
part.
it doesn't smell like chemicals. I hated that Skin So Soft stuff, because it gave me a massive chemical headache whenever I got even close to it. And this, it does have a strong smell. And actually, it's funny that you say that, because I did not know it was the goaty smell, but there was something familiar about it,
Right.
But it just, it doesn't smell like chemicals to me, which is what I like about it.
Good.
Well, okay, so you can find it at Ecovet, eco-vet.com. You can also find it at Dover.
Well, there you have it. You can find links to today's guests at horsetipdaily.com, episode 1117. And this podcast was made possible through the generous support of Ecovet and listeners like you. Learn how you can help support Horse Radio Network programming and qualify for auditors-only perks by going to Horse Tip Daily and clicking on the Become an Auditor banner in the center of the page. The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements of guests or their opinions. Use your own judgment when listening to the tips provided by the experts on Horse Tip Daily.